You know how sometimes you're trying to describe someone and you just can't find the right words? We tend to use simple stuff like nice or shy, but honestly, those words barely scratch the surface. So in this explainer, we're going to build a much richer vocabulary to really help us understand the people around us.
Seriously, think about it for a second. When you talk about a friend or a family member or even a coworker, how deep do you really go? It's a real challenge, isn't it? Finding those perfect words to capture what really makes a person tick.
And look, it's not that those simple labels are wrong, but they just don't tell the whole story. By expanding our vocabulary just a little bit, we can start to paint a way more accurate and, honestly, a more insightful picture of who someone really is.
All right, so let's get into it. We're going to move way beyond just thinking in terms of good or bad. Personality is this fascinating, complex spectrum, and having the right words is really the key to appreciating all of its shades. Let's start with the good stuff, the admirable qualities, the words that describe the very best in people. You know, these are the kinds of compliments we all love to give. And let's be honest, we love to receive them even more. Okay, so let's break these two down. The key is in the words themselves. Extro means outward, right? That's why an extrovert is outgoing and gets their energy from being around people. And intro means inward, so an introvert feels more energized in quieter settings, turning their focus inward. And it's so important to remember, neither one is better. They're just different ways of moving through the world. Oh, I love this word, diligent. Being called diligent is a massive compliment, especially from a teacher or your boss. It means more than just hardworking. It means you're careful, you're thorough, and you get things done right and on schedule.
And here's a perfect example of what that looks like. It's not just about putting in the hours. It's about that consistent, focused effort toward a real goal. That right there is what being diligent is all about.
Magnanimous. Wow, what a word, right? This describes a really powerful kind of generosity. We're talking about a big-hearted person who acts for the good of others, often in a really grand, selfless way.
And this example just nails it. A magnanimous act is when someone puts the needs of other people way ahead of their own, showing a truly incredible generosity of spirit. It's really inspiring stuff.
You know when you listen to someone speak and you're just totally captivated? That's eloquence. An eloquent person has a real gift for words. They don't just talk, they communicate in a way that's clear, powerful, and just effective. You hang on every word.
Okay, so we've covered the shiny, positive stuff. But, of course, not all personality traits are so straightforward. Now we're going to shift gears and explore some words for characteristics that can be a little more complex, maybe even a bit challenging. Now this one's a little tricky. Someone who's naive is really trusting, and it's usually because they just haven't seen enough of the world to be skeptical. It can come from a sweet, innocent place, but you have to be careful with this word, because calling someone naive can definitely come across as an insult.
And this is the classic way you'd hear it used. It describes someone who just hasn't developed that critical filter yet, which can make them pretty vulnerable to being tricked or misled. This is a fun one. A superstitious person sees connections that aren't really based on logic. You know, like thinking a black cat crossing your path is bad news, or that walking under a ladder is a definite no-go. It's all about a belief in luck, and maybe a little magic.
Ah, clumsy. I think we've all been there, right? This is just someone who lacks a bit of physical coordination. There's a great term for someone who's always dropping things. Butterfingers. It's like their fingers are literally slippery like butter.
Now, this is a really, really important distinction. A daring person takes a risk, sure, but it's a calculated one. Think of a bold business owner. A reckless person, on the other hand, just acts without even thinking about what might happen next. One is about courage, the other is just plain dangerous.
Okay, so we've got all these individual words, right? But in the real world, these traits rarely just stand alone. They usually cluster together to form what we might call personality profiles. Let's look at a few common ones.
So, here's how some of those traits can combine. You've got your outgoing person, just a bundle of friendly, confident energy. Then there's the quiet person, who's more calm, thoughtful. The serious person is all about being responsible and organized, while the kind person is helpful and polite. Do any of these sound like you? Or maybe someone you know? And then there's a more complex one you've probably heard of, the Type A personality. These are your super ambitious, really hard-working people. The flip side, though, is that they can also be anxious, a bit controlling, and they're definitely not calm. They get a lot done, for sure, but they can be pretty tough to work with or even just to relax with.
So, you might be thinking, okay, great, a bunch of new words. So what? Well, this is the part that really matters. Having the right language for personality has real, practical power in our everyday lives.
So what's the real payoff here? Well, when you can accurately describe personality, you can understand your friends on a deeper level, you can communicate more clearly at work, and you can avoid all those silly misunderstandings that come from using vague labels. It's a key skill for building better relationships, plain and simple.
Because really, at the end of the day, this is all about connection. Every single person is this unique mix of different traits. Learning the language of personality helps us to actually see, to appreciate, and to connect with those special qualities that make each of us who we are.
So, I'll leave you with this final thought. Think about all the words we just covered: diligent, eloquent, daring, maybe even a little bit naive or clumsy. If you had to pick just 3 of them to describe yourself, what would they be? It's a pretty interesting way to turn this whole lens back on yourself.
Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer. I'll see you next time.